Electrical panel clearance is a critical aspect of safe and compliant electrical installations. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides specific guidelines to ensure adequate working space around electrical equipment. One relevant section is Article 110.26a. This section focuses on the depth of working space in front of electrical equipment. The required depth depends on the voltage to ground and the condition of the installation. There are 3 conditions to consider. Condition 1 exists where there are exposed live parts on one side of the working space and no grounded parts or grounded parts protected are on the other side of the working space, or where grounded parts are on the opposite side of the working space and are separated from the live parts by effective insulation. Condition 2 exists where there are exposed live parts on one side of the working space and grounded parts are on the other side of the working space. Condition 3 exists where there are exposed live parts on both sides of the working space. For example, for systems operating at 150 volts to ground or less, Condition 1 requires a minimum depth of 3 feet. Condition 2 also requires 3 feet. Condition 3 requires 3 feet. For systems operating at between 151 volts and 600 volts, Condition 1 requires a minimum depth of 3 feet. Condition 2 requires 3.5 feet. Condition 3 requires 4 feet. For systems operating at between 601 volts and 2500 volts, Condition 1 requires 4 feet. Condition 2 requires 5 feet. Condition 3 requires 6 feet. For systems operating at between 2501 volts and 9000 volts, Condition 1 requires 5 feet. Condition 2 requires 6 feet. Condition 3 requires 9 feet. For systems operating at between 9001 volts and 25,000 volts, Condition 1 requires 6 feet. Condition 2 requires 8 feet. Condition 3 requires 10 feet. For systems operating at between 25,001 volts and 75,000 volts, Condition 1 requires 8 feet. Condition 2 requires 10 feet. Condition 3 requires 12 feet. For systems operating at between 75,001 volts and 150,000 volts, Condition 1 requires 10 feet. Condition 2 requires 12 feet. Condition 3 requires 14 feet. Another critical aspect of panel clearance involves the width of the working space, as detailed in Article 110.26 ATWR. The working space must be a minimum of 30 inches wide, or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. This width must allow for at least a 90-degree opening of the equipment door or hinged panel. The height of the working space is also important, as outlined in Article 110.26 A3. The working space must extend from the grade, floor, or platform to a height of at least 6.5 feet or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater. Within these dimensions, no foreign objects are permitted. This ensures that personnel have adequate space to safely access and work on the electrical panel. Additionally, Article 110.26b addresses the need for clear access and entrance to the working space. At least one entrance of sufficient area must be provided to give access to the working space about the electrical equipment. For equipment rated 1200 amps or more and over 6 feet wide, there must be an entrance at each end of the working space. If the location allows a continuous and unobstructed way of exit travel, one means of access is permitted. The door or passageway must be at least 24 inches wide and 6.5 feet high. Article 110.26c discusses illumination. Adequate illumination is required for all working spaces about service equipment, switchboards, panel boards, or motor control centers installed indoors. The lighting should provide sufficient visibility to perform tasks safely and effectively. Article 110.26d covers headroom. The minimum headroom required is 6.5 feet unless the equipment is installed in existing dwelling units and doesn't exceed 200 amps. In such cases, the headroom can be less than 6.5 feet. Keep in mind that these are general guidelines and the specific requirements may vary based on local codes and the specific installation. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and local amendments for the most accurate and up-to-date information. It is also crucial to consider other factors like dedicated equipment space as per Article 110.26e. Electrical equipment must have dedicated space, which includes the space directly above the equipment. This space must be kept clear of piping, ducts, or other equipment that could obstruct access or create hazards. Exceptions are allowed for equipment related to the electrical installation, such as sprinklers or suspended ceilings. Proper planning and adherence to these clearance requirements ensure the safety of personnel and the reliability of electrical systems. By maintaining adequate working space, electricians and other qualified personnel can safely install, maintain, and repair electrical equipment, reducing the risk of electrical shock, arc flash, and other hazards. Failure to comply with these requirements can result in code violations, fines, and potentially dangerous conditions. Therefore, it is essential to prioritize electrical safety and follow all applicable codes and standards. Remember to always energize equipment before working on it and to use appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE. Regular inspections and maintenance can help identify and address any potential issues before they become major problems. By taking a proactive approach to electrical safety, you can help prevent accidents and ensure the safe and reliable operation of electrical systems. Finally, it is important to stay informed about changes to the NEC and other relevant codes and standards. The electrical industry is constantly evolving, and new technologies and best practices are emerging all the time. By staying up to date, you can ensure that you are always using the latest and most effective methods for electrical safety and compliance. In summary, maintaining proper electrical panel clearance is essential for safety, compliance, and the reliable operation of electrical systems. Always refer to the latest edition of the NEC and local codes for specific requirements, and prioritize safety in all electrical work. Proper working space, clear access, adequate illumination, and dedicated equipment space are all critical factors to consider when installing and maintaining electrical panels. By following these guidelines, you can help prevent accidents and ensure the safety of personnel and the public.